Hello, and welcome to the Jason Cavness Experience. I'm your host, Jason Cavness. The Jason Cavness Experience is brought to you by Cavness HR. At Cavness HR, we deliver HR to companies of 40 and less people across the United States. Our guest today is Bonnie Tinder. Bonnie, are you ready to be great today?
Absolutely. Every day.
For over 25 years, Bonnie has worked with top human resources software companies, leading implementation, marketing, and sales initiatives. Bonnie was most recently an industry and competitive intelligence analyst and helped to build vendor messaging and sales effectiveness programs. In 2018, she founded Raven Intel, a peer review site for enterprise software consulting designed to help customers make well-informed choices in an implementation partner. Bonnie, thank you for being here today. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So, for some reason, I keep on to call you Raven, but I know your name's Bonnie, right?
Hey, that's close enough. That's a great pseudonym. I'll take it.
So, Bonnie, you're pretty active on LinkedIn, and on February 26th, you wrote an article talking about 6 reasons your enterprise software project is late. Can you expand on that and why you wrote that article?
Yeah. First of all, I would tell you that approximately half of enterprise software projects are late. So this is not, an infrequent thing that happens. Most software projects go over the amount of time that customers had really banked for. And what we see on our site is customers really providing feedback as to why that happened. And in a lot of cases, the project was overly ambitious to begin with. And I think so many people go into an enterprise software project with, just a really ambitious schedule and thinking that they're going to be able to dedicate 100% of their time to completing the project, kind of forgetting that they have another job as well. And so in a lot of cases, the project is scoped initially on too tight of a time frame. And people, I think, overestimate the amount of time that they are able to spend on the project and underestimate the challenges that come up during a software project. And so I think that's probably the biggest one. I think we in that article that you mentioned had 6 of the main things that we hear, but I would say number 1 is just sort of a overly ambitious idea going in on how much time these actually take.
And then looking at both sides, how much is it's kind of been my own tech startup now, and it's like always, if a tech person says I have it done in a week, pretty much whatever they say, you need at least double, right? So how much is that, and how much is it the person with the company adding extra stuff on that's not the scope of work?
Absolutely. And I think, also being a business founder, I think you don't anticipate how long things will take initially. And, I think this is just every project, whether it is, trying to get your initial tech stack built, or even, we're doing a bathroom project right now, a bathroom redo. And, we're getting quotes from contractors that'll say, oh, the work will be done in 2 weeks, but we know in the back of our minds that that's really going to be a month that we're going to be without this bathroom. Because, even in a bathroom remodel or a house remodel, they always say double the amount of time that you think it's going to take, and then maybe double it from there as well in some cases. So I think, it's enterprise software implementation is similar to really any change in that, I think as humans, we like to be on the positive side of things and think that, with enough energy and enthusiasm, we're going to be able to tackle a project in a shorter period of time. And that usually is not the case.
Bonnie, can you find what exactly is enterprise? Like what size company is enterprise?
Yeah. It's sort of a loose definition, but when I think of enterprise software, I think of software that a company uses internally. So it's a business type of software And typically that software, and definitely on Rave and Intel, that we're looking at is cloud-based as well. When you talk about an enterprise-sized business, that's the sort of a different definition, which is, to me, that's any organization that has 1,000 employees and above. But enterprise software typically is a B2B software system that we're talking about.
I'd have to think with the enterprise-sized company, just the inbound bureaucracy of the company has to have an effect on the selecting vendors and the implementation too, right? I'm sure there's like many checkpoints have to go through to even get it approved, correct?
Yeah. Well, we always say there's two major decisions that you have in a good software decision. Number one is you have to pick the right software, and certainly you have to look at things like feature and function and the vendor that you're going to be dealing with, and what is their track record of success, what industry verticals do they focus on, and are all of those things good, are a match for the business and project that you have at hand. So that's one part of the equation, is choosing the right software. But then I think the other part, which is equally as important, is choosing the implementation path that you go on and the partner that you choose to help guide your implementation. And with a lot of these big enterprise software systems, those software vendors rely on a third-party consulting company to help get those projects live. And so if you do not choose the right partner to help you, that right third-party partner to help you with the implementation effort, doesn't matter if you chose a great software in step one, it's not going to, be properly implemented and properly adopted within your organization if you don't choose the right implementation partner. So two decisions, two big decisions.
From your point of view at a company, should HR lead the implementation or IT should lead the implementation of HR software?
In terms of the selection process?
Selection is implemented across the company.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it needs to be a collaborative effort, and I've seen both instances, and I've seen success cases in both instances. I've seen failures in both instances. At the end of the day, the HR team is going to live with that software. They're going to ultimately be on the hook for the implementation and the employee experience with it. That digital experience is going to reflect on the HR department if it's an HR decision. And so if HR is not really the driver in that case and isn't able to have specific things that they are able to get from the selection process, that's going to be problematic. With that said, if HR is making all of the, leading the decision process and doesn't have the collaboration of IT, when it comes time to implementing and all of a sudden IT has to start dedicating resources to the project and feel like, they weren't the part of the decision process, and now they have to support an application that doesn't really fit with their specifications or with the bandwidth that they have to support, that's going to be problematic as well. So I think in terms of the software selection piece of things, HR really needs to, have the needs that need to be met during the, in the system itself, and how they're going to utilize the system internally, roll it out, et cetera. But IT needs to be part and parcel to that process to make sure that they're on board once implementation starts, because even in the cloud, no matter what vendors will say, the effort from IT in making sure that things are set up properly from the beginning, it's not as if, it's in the cloud and our software vendor is hosting it, so IT can, just be along for the ride. That's absolutely not true. IT needs to embrace the product as well as have availability to help in implementation.
Bonnie, with so many HR vendors out there, how does it even pick which one to use, right? I mean, literally like hundreds of thousands. How do you go with all the noise and pick the right one for you, right? That's close to impossible, isn't it?
I wouldn't say it's impossible. I think, I think to me, what's most important is that you are looking at a system that fits and can deliver on the business case and the end result that you were looking for. You work backwards from there. I think that makes the playing field a lot smaller because yes, as you mentioned, software vendors are a dime a dozen. There are thousands of HR software vendors. It's a fragmented market. And if you're in HR and looking for a system, you can make a full-time job of looking and inviting software vendors to come in and show you what they have. On the other hand, if you come in with a perspective and sort of what your end result should look like, and then you do your initial due diligence before you call a vendor in based upon that sort of that foundation, let's say, and you talk to peers in your industry first, I think that's going to create a smaller universe from which to start from. So you can, look at, let's say you come up with a list of 5 vendors that sort of fit within the scope that you're looking for. And then you can, condense your process down to the point where it's gonna make sense and that you're not getting too much, too many different points of view and too many vendors that really aren't going to fit the bill that sort of waste your time from the beginning. I think, again, you can really accelerate your process if you come up with sort of your best view from the early part and then go deep with each one of them to make your final selection.
And this is a important decision, right? You have to pretty much get this right because if you make the wrong decision in a year and you decide this is not the right platform for us, you waste all the money all the time, and now you got to find a new one and then go all over again. So it's important to get it right the first time if you can, right?
Without a doubt. And in a lot of cases, if you make the wrong decision, it costs enough money within your organization, your own neck is going to be on the line as well. So you not only from a cost perspective, but credibility perspective, that you have your brand, your internal name is on that decision. And so you want to make sure that you make the right one.
Bonnie, why did you start Raven & Tail?
So I spent 25 years in the HR software industry. And I worked for many of the main players in the HR space, HR software vendors. And what I continued to see throughout my career, right, 25 years, even though software changed, the implementation experience was a big problem. And everybody hates implementation. Nobody likes it. No matter even the good implementations, at the end of the day, it's still an implementation and they're really tough. And I felt like customers had no idea, because you don't change your HR software every year or even every 5 years in some cases. Customers had no idea how they could pick the right software, but really didn't have any independent resources to pick the right consulting partner to help guide them so that they had a good implementation. And, while there was like places like a G2 Crowd and, the other peer review sites for software, nothing existed out there for implementation and consulting partners. So that's really where I started from. Was I wanted to be able to make it for customers to be able to make a wise choice in a consulting partner. And then on the other side of the coin too, I wanted software vendors who relied on all of these partners to do the work to be able to have like an independent voice or an independent set of oversight that gave them sort of reports back as to who their best partners were, what their customers were saying, because in a lot of cases, these software vendors were going out and selling their software and had no idea how the customers fared after the software sale was done. And so, we, as much as we serve customers, we serve software vendors and helping them really get a bird's eye view on their partner ecosystem and know who their best partners are, who the partners that they need to kick out of their ecosystem are because their customers are not happy. And we give these consulting firms a platform to really showcase the great work that they are doing for customers as well, and get in front of more customers because of the quality of their work, not just because they spend a ton of money on advertising and things like that. We're really trying to give the best customers the biggest voice on our platform, and so all of those things, I sense those needs were not being filled in the industry, and so I'm like, nobody else is doing it, I'm gonna do it. So
that's great.
Thank you.
So from your time in HR software, what has become better and what has gotten worse?
I think what has gotten better is the user experience. And I think about, the current situation that we're in right now where, so many employers are working from home, and how much more difficult things would have been even 5 years ago, before all of these applications could be available, if you could get to an internet browser. And so I think in terms of the overall user experience and the ability to sort of deploy the software far and wide, and to enable things like work from home and a mobile experience, in all of those regards, I think HR software and that the user experience has really improved. I think what has gotten worse is related to why things have gotten better, is getting all of these systems to talk to one another. So you might have a great solution for one piece of your HR experience, but then let's say your learning platform is separate from that, or you need your HR system to talk to another facet within your business, and the integrations are very complex. And because so many customers are supporting multiple products, or they're even in some cases they have Excel spreadsheets for some things, and then they have a good let's say HR admin system, getting all of the pieces to talk to one another, because there's so many layers and there's so many different tools that sort of need to sync up. I think that has gotten worse. And this idea of a tech stack that is just too big and unwieldy is a big challenge, both for users, because they now have multiple sign-ins, but for the overall admin and for HR departments and IT departments to be able to report on all of these things together. I think it's more challenging.
How much is the challenge that, like, most HR people are not really tech savvy, right? How much do you think that plays into it?
I think good HR leaders, good HR practitioners are tech savvy. And if they're not super tech savvy themselves, they need to hire a team that understands the digital experience and certainly HR data and analytics, because without those things, again, the modern employee experience and employee engagement, and sort of this idea of empowering employees, developing employees today, without a really good handle on how your digital footprint is in HR. If you don't have that, you're not going to last long within the department. So I think good HR practitioners need to be, in order to be relevant, need to be tech savvy or have a great tech savvy team that they've hired.
And I go to step further. Like nowadays, especially like the new generation coming up, they do everything on their cell phones, right? Or mobile phone, iPad. So if your HR platform is not mobile friendly, it's pretty. I think you're wasting your time, right?
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. I mean, everybody wants an experience that you can, look at on a mobile device and do easily that way. I mean, especially now that everything is, a distributed workforce and continued probably direction where people are going to be working from home for a long time. I think if you don't have mobile enablement, it's going to be a detriment long term.
Why does it seem that so many vendors are not meeting the expectations of their customers?
You mean software vendors or?
Yeah, software vendors. Yeah, yeah.
Where we see customers rating their vendor experience poorly, it's when they haven't been clear about what the tech roadmap looks like, and clear about the business case for the product that they're providing. And so the expectations during the sales process, that somebody has about a particular product, all the features and functions are sold in one way, but then delivered by a completely different team, that the customer, in a lot of cases, has to re-explain their use cases and what they, had talked about during the sales process. So there's this disconnect between, from sales handoff to the customer experience. And, I think there's in cases where there's a gap where a customer feels like they were sold something different than was actually put in place, that's where the real initial discontent starts happening. Even if the implementation, is able to solve some things, that sows the seeds, I think, eventually for a relationship that is, starts off on the wrong foot. So I think a difference between expectations and reality is probably what I would say number one is.
So Bonnie, can you talk about what a tech roadmap is real fast? I think most people don't know what that is.
So if someone says, hey, that would be a great feature that we'd like to have in your product, and the software company says, you're right, a lot of customers are asking for that, we're going to put it on the roadmap. That then puts it in queue, essentially, to be worked on at a later date. And it's a future, that roadmap is sort of like the future of the software is going to look like this in, next quarter or next year or whatever the roadmap tells you. But the roadmap is the future direction of a software. And also here is a difference in expectation versus reality. Some vendors will say, we'll put that on the roadmap. It's going to happen in Q2 2021. And then Q2 2021 happens and they're like, oh, well, we're going to actually push that into Q4, or, we had other things that came up that took precedence, et cetera. So, a roadmap in some cases is a little bit like aspirational, but I think, good software companies have a roadmap that really sort of, is less aspirational than it is realistic.
Yes. Bonnie, so there's like so many HR tech companies out there, and when people, they think of tech, they think modern, futuristic. But despite this, HR still has a stigma of being old, traditional, old school. Why this disconnect? Why is HR still known as being like old and traditional? How come, because there's so many HR tech companies out there. What's this disconnect going on for?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think part of it is HR is legacy, right? Every department has had their, HR software, HR department, HR function evolve over time. And in some cases, the evolution is a lot quicker in some areas than it is in others. So maybe some parts of the business, HR has a great user experience, maybe for the professional workforce, but then for workers that are, maybe that aren't accessing a computer as part of their core job, and now they're having to fill out paper or go to some, old kiosk or something like that. That experience hasn't yet caught up to the other parts of the business. And so I think, the moving things as now our technology in general, as workers, we expect everything, to be available on our handheld device. Even, if HR hasn't caught up with that, that's in my mind shows, if I'm a worker and I have a mobile device, in fact, but I'm not working in front of a computer, my expectation is that then, HR is behind if you're not able to communicate with me in the same way as, I can access my YouTube or my Facebook or something like that.
I remember when I left the Army, one of my first HR jobs I had, changing the computer. This is like 2016. I almost like passed, like, what are y'all doing? Like, but they had no clue, right? They had no clue what's going on, right? And they're like, so I saw them Google Drive. Oh, this is great. It's been like 10, 20 years, right? It's like, yeah, it's like, but you don't know what you don't know, I guess. Or you don't, if you don't want to learn something new, you're going to be stuck in old times, I guess. But that was just very funny for me.
It's true. And I feel that within the last, 2 or 3 years, our own user experience has changed so much with consumer apps and availability of, things like Amazon and, and we just expect everything to have, mobile interface and deliverability and things like that. This sort of modern ordering experience for things like that. And, as soon as you have a taste of that, you're like, well, why can't everything be as simple as, ordering lunch from Grubhub in like 10 seconds, so.
Exactly. How come I can't pick my benefits broker, but I push the app, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So Bonnie, you talked some about your company. Can you talk now about your vision for your company? Like what you want the future to be for your company?
Yeah. So we have, we've been in business just a little bit over 2 years. And it's really exciting to see sort of the progress that we have made over these 2 years. So on a regular basis, we have over 16,000 visitors to our website. We have over 200 partners or consulting partners who are profiled on our site. We have 7 major software vendors who are represented in those 200 partners. And we have over 600 reviews that are available for customers to read out there. So over the last 2 years, things have really, I think we're gaining momentum now, and people know that we exist. And so we want to continue that, where every HR buyer or anybody within the HR function that would make a decision for an HR software comes to our site and uses it as a resource. We're free. So I want to see a continuance in that evolution. Where we are going in the future is we're expanding past HR. So we're looking at any large enterprise software that is implemented. So we're looking at financials now and supply chain management, CRM, because at the end of the day, what we're measuring is a project go live, or the software implementation experience. And there's definitely nuances for HR and there's nuances for finance and things like that. But the overall project effort and what we're measuring is similar. And I think there's a lot of benefit to having that scale on the site that provides, we're able to look at projects, and whether it's HR or finance, say, was this a good project? Yes or no. So I think the future is scaling beyond just HR to all enterprise software. So we're going to get Salesforce.com on our site and other financial systems out there as well.
Bonnie, can you talk about your own entrepreneurial journey? Like, why did you decide to become an entrepreneur? Why start up something? Why make that big jump, as they say?
So I've always wanted to start my own business. It's been sort of a lifelong dream. And, I had, close to 25 years where I sort of built my career and, I sort of had this notion that my dream was to be like a chief marketing officer for a big company. I thought, oh man, if I could do that, I would have made it. And what I really realized, I think, through my sort of corporate career journey is that what I loved most about work was, number one, being able to create something, but number two, more seeing the results. And, after creating it, sort of getting like the acceptance for it and seeing something that I had an idea for take off. And so, marketing definitely has a lot of that, but what I realized most is that I love the tech side and really this sort of idea of creating a business around an idea. And so, a couple of years ago, as I was really working in my last job, I had this idea that just continued to eat at me, that was nobody is fixing this. And that's sort of why the timing of it is I just saw this opportunity out there to do something that nobody else was doing. But with that said, if I hadn't started a business, whether it was, this one or something else, and got to the end of my working years and hadn't done it, I would have been really disappointed. And I always say, no matter what happens, this is always something that I had to do. I mean, it was just, it's part of who I am. And if I didn't do it, I would have looked back and had regret. So, yeah.
So Bonnie, talk about something on your entrepreneurial journey, whether it's good or bad, that you totally did not expect, right? Like it's totally come out of left field and man, I did not expect this as part of being an entrepreneurial journey. And it could be something good that happened or something bad that happened.
Yeah. Okay. I can give you about 100 examples for each. And I think as an entrepreneur, you don't know what you don't know until you've actually gone through it the first couple of years, and probably the first time that you are an entrepreneur, you learn a lot of hard lessons, and which I did myself. I think something that I didn't expect was how long initially things would sort of take to gel. And, you anticipate okay, the doors are open, everybody's going to come and everybody's going to want to buy. That is not the case. And I think you just need to be patient with yourself. You need to be patient with your business, because it doesn't take one conversation for somebody to really get it and to understand the value. It probably takes 50, and sometimes it takes, a couple of years, and you have to sort of kiss a lot of frogs before you find the one that is going to understand and see the vision and want to do it and take a risk on a new entrepreneur, a new business. On the other hand, when you find those princes in the mix, those become sort of your guiding light. And I was so lucky to have a couple along the way who sort of helped build the business with me, trusted the vision that I had and said, we're going to do this. And, now a couple of years later, it's awesome because it's really worked. And I think we have a great relationship now with them as customers, but it certainly did not happen overnight. And you have to get really used to, number one, getting ignored. Ignored is the even worse than no, because you keep on trying to call somebody or sending them emails, and you're like, why are they not returning my call? Why, all of these things. And you got to learn to like not take it personally and just continue to do it, because it's a numbers game, and it's going to take 50 touches before you get somebody who is going to listen to you, and probably another year before they're going to actually write a check and say, all right, my company's going to do this. So I did not anticipate how long things would sort of take to truly mature. And I think, I think that was the challenge, and it's challenging to sort of like always, maintain a good attitude when you want somebody to like believe in you from the beginning, but it'll be worth it in the end. And I continue to tell myself that too.
Yeah, but that's a great point. So many entrepreneurs are like, oh, I'm gonna get rich in 6 months, all that kind of stuff, but it takes a long time, right? Like you see, you might have a conversation today, but it not pay off until like a year and a half from now, right? Because there's plenty of times today, I'll have something good for me. I can trace it back to something that I did like a year and a half ago, right? Mm-hmm. And then I remember like when Mark Zuckerberg first started big, right, with Facebook, he did an interview and someone asked, what does it feel like to be overnight success? Oh, well, if overnight success is me coding my dorm room for 4 years, so I guess I'm overnight success, right?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Whoever says, oh, this was like an overnight success, they're absolutely lying. And either that or they're not truly successful yet. It's a long game. And I think that's the good entrepreneurs. When somebody says, I've been in business for 10 years, I'm in admiration for them, because it takes like 90% of startups, or maybe 95% of startups, fail within the first 2 years. And I would never be part of that statistic. I mean, because I went through this sort of initial incubator program through a tech startup hub, and I kept on hearing that statistic. And that was my sort of like my guiding light, like the thing that I didn't want to happen. What kept me up at night was 95% of startups fail. And I'm like, that is never going to be Raven. And yet I saw a lot of my peers in that group who went out of business or got full-time jobs. And so you have to sort of have a strong stomach to take on some of the challenges that happen within the first 2 years. And just work your butt off. I mean, it's not, I mean, like people who think that they're going to be an entrepreneur and have, work-life balance. No. I mean, if you are not so passionate that you are willing to work nights and weekends and like think about your business all the time, you don't have the passion for it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, for me, a vacation is like a 2-hour break once a week to drink a beer, right, with a friend, right? That's my vacations.
Absolutely. And even probably when you're drinking that beer, you're talking about your business. I mean,
exactly.
I mean, I got to be careful not to like let it be too consuming. But on the other hand, I mean, I think it's that drive that entrepreneurs have, which is like they're going to stop at nothing to make it work. And work-life balance is probably not so good.
No. I'm a firm believer that the only way to fail as an entrepreneur is if you quit, right?
Yeah. That's right. That's right.
Bonnie, talk about why HR is important.
I think HR sets the tone and the culture for a business. It's the function that makes or breaks the people equation of the business. And if you do not hire, manage, develop, and and choose the best people to run your business, nothing else matters. It's not going to fly. And I think HR has such a hand in crafting the people equation of business. And that people equation is a business's competitive value. So it's huge.
Bonnie, I understand you have something for our listeners today.
Yes. So this month, if you write a review about your HR project experience on our site, and you go to ravenintel.com, And up in the upper right, it says add review. We have about 1 million places where you can click on add review and write a review about your implementation experience. We're offering a $20 gift card to Grubhub so that you can, get lunch delivered to your office or your home office in a lot of cases.
Bonnie, can you share your social media for yourself and your company so people can reach out to you?
Absolutely. So Raven Intel, Raven, RAVENINTEL.com is where you want to go. You can always email me at bonnie@ravenintel.com. Happy to chat with you and be a resource for your HR project coming up.
And for the listener, we'll have the link to her gift and her social media on our show notes. You can find the show notes at www.kevinsatalblog.com. And be sure to share this episode with your friends and your social media network. Bonnie, we're coming into a talk. Can you give us any advice or wisdom or anything you want to talk about?
Well, the weekend is coming up, so enjoy it. Enjoy being out in this great weather that we're having here.
Thanks, Bonnie. Bonnie, thanks for being here today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
And to our listeners, thanks for your time as well. Remember